go into what is learning, what is natural learning. So natural learning is is in which the mind and body are in sync. That experience is being understood within the framework, within the frame experience itself. That is what actually natural learning is all about. And in this case, word is in service of the world. So knowledge is actually outside the realm of language. Language is only for communication, not for cognition. The world is your content. What you experience is your content. And the processing also happening within the experience. So it's an integration of everything in your own being. So one very important thing that we must understand is that human beings are biologically equipped to learn the world, which is their context, autonomously. That all living beings are like that. And this happens within the realm of experience. And the human child is born as a universal thing because it's universal mind with tremendous possibilities. For example, when the child is, suppose the child is born and the child is taken immediately to China, and they will learn Chinese or any other spaces. So actually the structure is ready for learning, so there is already an internal mechanism which is capable, and its possibilities are immense. It can learn one language, or it can learn 4 or 5 languages, like that case in the slums of Bangalore or many other places. So, and then what happens is that particular context will root the child into that space. So if that space is near the sea, if the people are speaking Malayalam, if there are coconuts around, so that whole context is what is going to root the child to that system. So everywhere what is happening is that a universal being gets rooted into the particular context. But the process is the same. It is only the content that changes. Depending upon the context in which the child is born, the child then makes sense of it. But what happens in a natural system is that when there is no teaching involved, the child's universal beingness and the particular beingness are in balance. When you begin to teach, see, what happens in teaching is that conscious reasoning is what actually begins to build ego. When you are learning your mother tongue, you never claim that you are the learner. It happens actually. It happened to you. You made no effort, conscious effort. Okay, the system is making an effort, but not your ego. Your ego is not involved. And you don't even have a choice. Because if you are staying in a place like the Bangalore slum, the child is not choosing to learn 4 languages. There are 4 languages, and the child is absorbing all the 4 languages with no effort and with no ego involved. So in that case, what happens is that the child's selflessness and selfishness, there is a balance in these two. And so, but one very important thing that we need to understand is that human child, unlike other newborns of other species, even though we have huge potential, but at the same time we are also very vulnerable and helpless. Because the difference is that because of, you see, other animals and other things, they're very limited in their development. Whereas a human child, there is a huge possibility on 2 sides. They can be awakened, unfolded, or they can be conditioned. So this is a very important thing to look at. That, simple example is that a child, normally when the child is normally contented, and they would use suppose sometimes they are angry or sometimes they cry. These two emotions are there only for very, very little time. They would get angry, then they will forget about it completely, and they're back to normal. So there are certain things which are meant to be natural to you, I mean, in the most of the time, but there are certain qualities which are to be used when necessary. Anger, fear, these are negative qualities to be used when it is absolutely necessary. But if you create a condition in which every day the child has to get angry, the child has to be afraid, the child, then system changes. Why children are having problem today in the modern society is because on a day-to-day basis, every day they are rejecting what is unnatural to them. They don't like to go to school, but you force them, you convince them, you do something to them, or bribe them, find some way and send them there. So every day the child is in tension. So I'm telling this because to show the difference between what is awakening and what is conditioning. Awakening is what you naturally have, which is what is your normal system. Others are possibilities which should be used only when necessary. When that overpowers, then the whole system rewires, and then you become a result of conditioning instead of awakening. So this actually brings to the question something called forming or shaping. I would say that learning basically is a two-way process, that you are formed by what you engage with. Like what I told you about cycling, how the cycle gives you ability to do cycling. How swimming, you learn swimming from water because everything that you require to swim is actually the qualities that are required has there in water. So you are formed, your brain is shaped by what you engage with. This brain is flexible, the systems are formed with what you do. And the more you do it, a certain kind of system happens here, a habit happens, and then that is what happens to the brain. So look at what happens to the brain with what it is engaging with, So as I said, there are two possibilities for the child. Either it will awaken what is inherent potential, or it will get conditioned by the content and develop another kind of system. I'm mentioning this because that the written word and the overuse of language is actually rewiring your whole system. You are not meant to read and think and all that. No. So let's take this statement. Literates learn the word, illiterates learn the world. So the vice versa happens. The word forms the literates and the world forms the illiterates. And every child is born to learn the world. That's how it is born. So it is illiterate in that stage. But we have to offer them only ABCD. So slowly they shift from the mystery that they say around, the beauty that they say around, into just reading and writing. So world awakens and word conditions. And the word establishes its qualities in you, that you know the word. So that is what it is. So your reasoning, the kind of memory that you use, numbing of senses, all that is happening because of a constant engagement with the word. Whereas when you engage with the word, naturally all your senses will awaken. Whereas somebody who was in the question asking how to awaken senses, you don't have to do anything. If you leave the child without any teaching to explore the world that is around, it is bound to happen naturally, organically, but if you use any method, it will destroy its natural system. The system, nature should be there. Nature meaning it can be anything. It can just cooking is good enough, rain is good enough, wind is good enough, sun is good enough, all that is actually the birds that are around. You don't have to create any artificial thing there, So what does the word do to you? This is to be understood. Your knowledge is constructed as words, which is taught, read, imagined, ideated. This is what you have as knowledge. Your biological needs are constructed by words, because Now, how are you eating? You're not responding to body's needs. You're responding to the needs of the mind because somebody has told you this vitamin, that vitamin, immune. So now it's the immune system that everybody is caught up in now. No? So, but we are never allowed our body, because this should happen in the childhood. The body should be allowed to engage with simple food. Then slowly, because if you remember, for many people, Karela was just no. But how did you begin to like it? Naturally, the body has done something. So the body is constantly telling you. The problem is we don't listen to the body. We don't know how to listen to the body because we have never, been with our body. We have never been sensitive to the needs of the body. So what education does is to rewire this. You would respond to the needs of the mind, even for things that are actually for the body. And your feelings are constructed by words, fear, insecurity. Simple example of fear is that many people, are afraid of injection. How did they get this fear of injection? The fear of injection was because right from childhood, they started, threatening you with injection. So it's interesting to look at how the mind exaggerates. The mind has no access to pain at all. It's the body that has access to pain. When body accesses pain, body would know. How body can measure it. But when you tell the child that, we'll give you injection, artificially it is creating pain. It doesn't know what it is. It doesn't know how much it is. But once you falls down, he knows, yeah, this much it is. So this is another thing that you keep creating fear in children. You will fall down, you will fall down, you will fall down. So it's afraid to fall down. But actually, when a child falls down, actually, it doesn't, unless you are, after the child doesn't, really create so much problem with that. They will fall down, they will get up, they will do their own job. If you're not bothering the child again, So all these shifts are happening because you're using words. You're not allowing experience to, inform the being. And of course, you can also see there are more to this, how the memory has been completely shifted into another system altogether. In fact, there is a fundamental difference between these two kinds of memories. Experiential memory, which is a natural memory system, is absolutely different from the memory that most educated people have. Our memory system is full of words. And experiential, and of course, and what you do with it, it's kept in very rigid kind of compartments. Then there is disuse, which also means those parts of the brain will get spoiled. But when in an organic memory system, it is not held rigidly in your system. It is kept in a very, very light manner, and recalled when it's required. So there is a very different system of memory that people in, non-literate communities have. And they have fantastic memory. And of course, our spontaneity is gone. Our ability to be open is gone. So, so you have a very different kind of beingness, which is established by school, word, and literacy. So what happens to the eye? Eye gets rewired to read and think. So the senses become tool of the mind rather than physiological function. So next time when you go out, so this is interesting. I'll tell you about the color of the sky right now. So normally I ask this question in many of my workshops, in almost all my workshop, I ask this question. And from MTech students to all kinds of people. So invariably I get this answer, blue. And often I've also many times seen that even if the windows are open, you could see outside if you look, but nobody seems to look outside because the answer is so certain in their head. The sky is blue. They don't look up. So this was asked in a school, in a classroom of maybe 7th, 6th standard or 5th standard children. So a child is asking back, what time of the day are you talking about? So now you can see the difference between a child which is learning, which is observing, which is present, and a person who is educated, who is absent to the present, to the now. This is what actually education does. It makes us absent to the now, because we are storing knowledge in the head which we can recall. Color of the sky is blue. Also, when you finish this, please go out and look for one leaf that has at least 10 colors. Take a photograph and send it to us later. One leaf. Pick one leaf. Don't pluck it from the ground. If you look, you will see. And you will see several colors of leaves. You can find one leaf with 6 colors or 10 colors. So this is what happens actually, So the mind gets completely, it takes over completely the body.